But I just keep saying this, nearly everything that you witness, nearly everything you see, it's just astroturfed. It's not real. And obviously, Gary Thunberg is doing my absolute, you know, Watson. This guy is driving me up the wall. And the thing is, people just aren't seeing it. They're still like they're not actually. It's just so annoying. Why have people stopped? Like, where has this person appeared from? Why is he here? Why is he on my TV screen? Like, why is the algorithm promoting this guy? It's just like bloody Lex Fridman or any of these people. Whereas in reality, if you want to hear stuff that's interesting, a lot of the time, thank you, Carly, but that's why the ladies love it. Because the ladies love that. Like, you don't want a cuck, do you, ladies? Oswald the Great, that's very, very kind. Someone with a Roman salute over there on Rumble, saluting the Emperor as they come in. People love the whole Robin Hood economics narrative. The thing is, it's just garbage. And look, you know me. You know I, by and large, hate like the super rich. I hate these people. I hate everything that they stand for, etc. But you know what? What are we just going to tax them into oblivion? Because the whole point of that is saying that, well, give the government more money and we'll spend it better. It's garbage. Giving the government more money does not solve wealth inequality. Giving the government more money just gives the government more money. And then they just spaff it up a wall. Spend it on a war with Ukraine. They spend it on DEI. They spend it on illegals, immigrants, everything. It's utter garbage. It's utter slop. And as I say, this is the problem that we face. It's just slop everywhere. It's left-wing slop. It's right slop. It's right-wing slop. It's really bad that there isn't any genuineness to it. It's just what sounds good. It's just what sounds great. It's just not reality. You're always going to have winners and losers in life. You're going to have people who are taller, smaller, fatter, skinnier, more muscly, gayer, you know, like that's the way the cookie crumbles. But let's just try and have like a nice life and a nice clean society and just try and make things a bit better. It's just so annoying. Anyway, I want to dig into that. Let's have a deep dive then into our little chum, Gary Stevenson. Gary's economics. Inequality economics, former trader. Honestly, just strap yourself in for the voice.
I will agree 100%. It is difficult to tax rich people.
Yeah.
It is very, very, very difficult to tax
It's very, very, very difficult to tax rich people.
rich
So
people.
the difference...
I don't come here saying I want to tax rich people because it's easy. I know it's hard. I know probably I'm going to lose. I know our viewers, kids, will live in desperate poverty. I know that. I do this because it is hard. If we are a country which says to ourselves, we don't try and do things which are necessary to keep our kids out of poverty because they are hard, then our kids will live in poverty. I don't need to be here. I'm a multimillionaire, just like you. I could be in the Philippines drinking pina coladas.
Yeah, and shagging wee boys, probably, you dirty bastard. Why did he have to say I could be in the Philippines? Like, why say that I could be in the Philippines? No, with Filipinos, sicko.
Come in here because I come from a poor
Yeah, my good friend Graham says he thinks he's a drug addict. He does look like a drug addict.
background, and it's ordinary families like my family, like the kids I grew up with, whose kids are going to be in poverty. It's difficult, but it is necessary. Sometimes.
Right, so what you're just going to do, though, is the government is going to tax them, and that's going to somehow lift people out of poverty. It's garbage.
We have to do things not because they're easy.
You know, and as you say, he keeps going on about being a bloody multi-millionaire all the time. Well, do you know what? Give it all up, pal, if you feel so bad about it.
Because they are hard. That is what makes a rich country rich. And that is what protects ordinary people. Listen, our grandparents lived in poverty. Did they say, let's not change it because it's hard? No, they didn't. They fought and they demanded healthcare, education, housing, food, and they got it. They got it.
So you
That's
think
why
we're
my
not demanding
parents
enough?
could live a good quality life. They got those things. They got those things, and they were aware that in order to do that, you could not allow the super rich who have been living lives of luxury for hundreds and hundreds of years to eat everything while ordinary families couldn't afford to feed their kids. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult. And I know I'm probably going to lose. I know that. I know I'm probably going to lose. And that means our viewers will be poor. But I do it anyway because I do not want this country that I grew up in to fall into.
Right, but herein lies the problem. Poverty is, of course, a relative concept. So once they've taken the money from the rich, we would then be regarded as rich versus people in Haiti, people in Africa, people in Bangladesh. And then what you'd then have is Gary Stevenson would then go international, just like they all do, and demand that we give up our wealth for those people. Like, it's never going to stop. It is never, ever, ever going to stop because it's garbage. And it's lies. And the thing this guy never talks about, well, I've got actually a clip of him going on about, well, before we get into it, just listen to this. The issue I've been avoiding, honestly, as well, everything about this guy, it stinks with his wee stupid bloody hoodie on. Look at the flat as well. Is this supposed to be some, like, DOS house he lives in, like with a fairy out? Look at me, I'm just like wagwan normal. Nah, garbage. It's just garbage.
To do a video about immigration for ages. There's two subjects that I've wanted to do videos about for ages that I've not done, which is one, immigration, and two, inheritance. And I've avoided doing them because they are such contentious issues and they're so serious. And I feel like if you do them, you better do them well, basically. And I really want to do a video on immigration because I see it becoming like a bigger and bigger issue. But I feel like it's such an important video.
Look at the mess his house is in.
I don't want to it up, basically. And I feel like because I'm tired, I just feel like I don't have the energy to do it like the justice that it deserves. But obviously, we've got the election coming up now. We're talking about, we did our election video, right? We put it out, like, I guess maybe like a week or two ago. And we didn't talk about the rise of reform. Another thing we didn't really talk about is the fact that the Conservatives could possibly get pumped so hard in this election that they drop down into third or fourth place. They probably won't, but it's definitely possible. And, of course, we have this two-party system, which makes it like almost impossible to like replace the top two parties. And the top two parties have been the top two parties for like 100 years when like Labour replaced the Liberals or whatever. And to be honest, I think it's a stupid system. I think proportional. But they know that a lot of ordinary people think immigration is too high. In particular, a lot of ordinary people think that the reason why they can't get a house and the reason why they can't get a well-paid job is because of immigration.
And they are 100% correct, because the immigrants take all the bloody houses that there are.
And you can understand why they think that, right? Like there was a piece on the news, Sky News, so like totally mainstream news the other day, Sky News, housing crisis and immigration. And it's a really simple narrative to make, right? Which is these guys are coming over, they live in houses.
Yes.
You need houses.
Yes.
They compete with you for
Correct.
houses. They compete with you for jobs.
Correct.
They're bringing your wages down.
Yes.
They're pushing house prices up, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what is happening.
Right, so ordinary people who are struggling are being told these things.
Which are correct.
You can understand why they become an anti-immigration, right? Because like...
So what's this fucking idiot saying? We could have like 100 million people in this country, even though you would never have the resources to build the houses to house all those people. And it wouldn't affect house prices. This is lunacy. These people are lunatics. And this is why, again, I don't really get into debates with people on the left. Do you know what you just need to do? You need to smash cultural Marxism.
Life is getting hard. The most, for most people, the most obvious thing is getting a house or getting a job. These are like some of the most obvious problems. And they're being told the reason you can't do that is because of immigration, right? I don't personally think the primary reason my life is getting hard,
Wendy, you're too kind, thank
is
you.
because of immigration.
Well, your life isn't hard, is it, fuckface?
Right. I think the primary reason their life is getting hard is because of this growing inequality. But this is what people are being told, right? People are being told it's immigration, and
this is slow.
My voice is a lot less loud than these other voices, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not. You get invited on to Question Time, which, whether people like it or not, is the #1 watched TV show on politics.
Pushing against immigration. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to stop ordinary people who are being told the reason that they can't afford
Everything
a house.
about this guy is just fake. And that's what gets me. You guys see it. We know it. But there are people out there, I am not joking, just go on Twitter and look at them. They are lubing themselves up and they are fucking cracking it out over this guy. They are loving it. They are fingering themselves dry over this guy. And it's so annoying.
The reason they can't get a good job is because of foreigners.
And they can't get a good job because of fucking foreigners.
I have to stop them from believing that.
So you want to stop them from believing it?
I'm very, very confident that the economic situation will get worse because the inequality will get worse. And, we're going to get a Labour government that is not going to deal with inequality. They're not going to successfully.
Do you know, I'm so sick of this whole inequality agenda. Do you know why? Inequality has existed since before modern times. It will exist now, and it's always going to exist. What do people want to do about it? Some people are just more intelligent than others. Some people are just different. Like, all I'm saying is that once upon a time, if you became better off, remember the phrase was well-to-do. You then put back into your community. You tried to make things nicer. You tried to make things a bit better for everyone. What this guy is pushing is just basically communism, which is, again, it's garbage. Yeah, he's a multimillionaire, and that's why this is so annoying, as I'm going to go on and explain to you all about him. But as I said, they were gushing last night on Question Time. Gushing.
For 5 years that this is going to happen, that this situation will get worse and worse and worse, which it has been doing.
Why does he talk with that really weird mouth?
I was betting on it for 10 years before that. For people who don't know who I am.
Look at the way, is this how bad it is? At least if I could have a socialist representative, could I at least have someone that looks like Tony Benn, please? Or, I don't know, Ken Livingston.
I was Citibank's #1 trader in the world in 2011.
Was he, though? Apparently that's a lie.
I got paid millions of pounds because I bet that our economy would collapse because he wouldn't deal with growing inequality. I quit that job in 2014 to try and stop that inequality from growing. I was doing that in private until the beginning of COVID, when it became clear that inequality would increase enormously.
COVID believes in the scam.
Does anyone know what the total government deficit is since the beginning of COVID? It's £1 trillion now, which is £20,000 for every single adult in the country. So if every single one of you is not £20,000 cash richer,
every single person in that audience was probably creaming themselves, demanding more lockdowns, demanding free vaccines, demanding Nightingale hospitals, demanding test and trace. Remember they said at the time you couldn't put a price on a life.
Someone else has your money.
Is that the debt or the debt?
It's the increase in the debt, which is the deficit.
Debt, right, yeah.
Does anyone know who has that £1 trillion?
I think you might be about to tell us.
It is the richest people in the country. It is the richest people in the country. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. If we pause the economy and give £1 trillion, £20,000 for every adult in this room and the rest of the country to the richest people in the country, and then unpause the economy, what do you think will happen to living standards for ordinary people? They will collapse. This is a problem of growing wealth inequality. The extremely rapid growth of wealth of the richest people in the country. The average billionaire increased their wealth by £630 million in the first year alone of COVID.
When you say it's
That
the
is
wealthy
squeezing-
people, isn't it things like the Canadian pension funds and all that sort of thing?
It's the wealthiest individuals in the
Right. Money printing props up asset values. Rich people have assets, therefore their wealth goes up.
country. It's multimillionaires and billionaires. These are the guys.
But also massive pension funds from abroad.
And who are the overwhelming owners of those pension funds? The richest people in the country. Listen, these men and women are not £20,000
Well, the
richer.
pensioners, I don't know if they're the richest people in the country, but okay.
Who here's £20,000 cash rich than before COVID? I'll tell you who probably is. Every single person on this panel, okay? The richest people in the country are getting richer.
Hang on, don't include us in all this. I don't know if you've seen the way the BBC works, but they're not exactly raising salaries by that much.
All I'm going to say is, this growth in wealth inequality, it is going to keep the middle class and the working class poor. It is going to cut government services, and that is the people in this room. Their kids, their grandkids will be poor.
You've obviously...
Because we are not dealing with wealth inequality.
Well, you rightly say, you spent a lot of time thinking about this. What do you think the solution was?
It's a total slot.
We have to shift the tax system. We have a tax system which taxes ordinary working people 30, 40, 50, 60%, while people like the Duke of Westminster can inherit £10 billion and pay nothing. If you do that, wealth will be sucked out of the middle class. It's already been completely bankrupted the working class.
It's the Duke of Westminster to blame.
Government, which is what we are seeing, and there'll be poverty. There'll be broad poverty. There'll be no middle class left. Why are we taxing working people more than billionaires?
One of Stevenson's assertions that he was best, his claim about being most profitable trader at City in any one year is laughable and just an outlandish fib. He was at no point even amongst the highest 20 to 25 traders at Citibank's team at the time. Average people were making the amount of money that Gary said he was making.
Listen, the last
Has this guy ever once mentioned Jewish finance and international capital? Once?
70 years are not normal, Stephen. The last 70 years are not normal. The last 70 years in Europe and the US, where ordinary people like my dad could work for the post office on less than average wage and buy a house and support families.
But this guy is diagnosing the problems to push people to a very, 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 very sinister outcome, which is communism. That's what he's pushing himself towards.
Only owners of those pension funds, the richest guys.
But also massive pension funds from abroad.
And who are the overwhelming owners of those pension funds? The richest people in the country. Listen.
Richest people in the country own foreign pension funds. It's garbage.
Young people face with regards to their economic futures. More and more and more young people growing up in poverty. But even aside from that, we've got people with jobs in London who are homeless. So that means if you're a young person, you know that even if you get an ordinary job, it's not going to be enough to buy a home. It's not going to be enough to have a family. So just doing the right thing, working and getting a job, it doesn't even guarantee you can feed your kids. You know, we have to look at this. And then obviously if you're a young person, you're thinking, well, if I don't get the best grades and I don't get to the best university, then I'm not even going to be able to have a family. You know, what kind of world have we made here? You know, we need to...
What kind of world have we made? Yanis Varoufakis, he's out there as well. Another one of these dickheads that... But again, all these people do is they get people very angry and the solution they offer them is garbage. And I'm going to explain to you who the solution benefits and who is pushing this stuff, because it's a very distinct group of people.
Here's a realization problem. The United Kingdom has for too long relied on a Ponzi scheme that involves house prices that are unsustainable, remaining unsustainable for a very long time. It relies
Wendy, thank you.
on
You're too kind.
a flow of capital which does not materialize in the form of productive investments. And the fact that they ditched the Green New Deal, those
So Yanis Varoufakis is angry at house prices being artificially propped up, and one of the reasons it was bad because we stopped the Green New Steel.
was 5 billion pounds, which were not enough, even before they got into government, is indicative of the fact that this is a clueless government. They have no plan to create something like an investment bank, the equivalent of the European Investment Bank.
The other thing these guys all do as well is the solution for them is always more and more and more government. Now, I am not some anarcho-libertarian, but big government is usually a recipe for disaster. It just cripples growth. It just cripples everything. A government shouldn't probably be any bigger than 10% of the country. Even if that's probably too high. Our government represents well over half of the GDP. Most private firms are totally reliant on some form of government contract. It's just way too high.
That in association with the Bank of England could channel the very large amount of liquidity that exists in the City of London in productive ways. They talk about growth and investment, but there's absolutely nothing I see in there except for recessionary, contractionary measures like the increase in the national insurance contributions, which was a suicidal move by Rachel Reeves. I think this.
I remember very well Syriza when he was involved in it. They were given a mandate by the people. They were given a mandate by the people of Greece to withdraw from the European Union. They didn't do it. They could have withdrawn from the European Union, gone back to the drachma, devalued the currency. Instead, he sold out Greece to the European Union, and they're still paying off the debt. Honestly, it just, the mind boggles at these people.
Tens of millions of people up and down this country.
Look at the stupid socks.
The main number one thing they are worried about is the economy.
But see, again, this is also very duplicitous because, believe it or not, what is an economy? What is even money? Like I could have 1 million pieces of paper, but it's worthless. I could have 1 billion pieces of paper and it's worthless. A country is its people. Is its nation, its land. I love with the blood, the soil, the land. Are we now reduced to my understanding of life is whether I've got a lot of pieces of paper to then buy things I don't need? That again, there's a certain way of thinking that thinks everything is about money, isn't it? That's why anyone watching the show should have no money and give it all to UNN. That's why.
Kids can't get houses. They can't afford families. They can't get financial security.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. But you're not solving the problems, Gary.
But the future is getting worse and worse and worse. Tens of millions of people want the economy to be better. This is the only way to make the economy better. There's no other way. If you don't tax the...
Would Gary ever talk about how in 1933 Germany was knackered after the Weimar inflation, after the Great Depression, yet within a space of 5 years had gone on to become probably the most wealthy country in the world with zero unemployment. Autobahns as far as the eye could see. Standards of living risen beyond anything The end. Like, would Gary ever allude to that? Now, I'm not saying Gary needs to come out and then throw up a Roman, but would he ever, like, because the German economic miracle was real under Hitler. Now, some people have argued, and again, I don't think this, but they said that that's why he was agitating for conflict, because it would reach a point where it would require cheap resources from Eastern Europe. And that is why Hitler built up his armed forces, agitated for a war, and wanted those resources, because without receiving those cheap resources, it would have collapsed. Now, that tends to be the sort of mainstream argument about why World War II started. But then, of course, there is another argument that isn't true, and that it was a successful independent country because they ended the Rothschild banking system. Now, we could debate it, couldn't we? But Gary just won't ever talk about that, would he?
The rich, their wealth will grow, and it will grow, and it will grow, and it will squeeze out your family. It's already squeezed out the working class. Now it's squeezing out the government. Then it's going to squeeze out the middle class. This is going to impoverish 60, 70, 80, 90% of the country.
But what, again, I'm trying to explain to people is that Gary, once Gary redistributes the wealth in this country, Gary will then want our wealth redistributed to poor countries around the world. It will not stop with us. And that's the biggest lie of all about these people. They don't believe in socialism in one country. They believe in internationalism. I posted, just like clockwork, Gary Thunberg rocks up, Goldman Sachs propaganda, an account called Brother of Ian, Red Revenant, may be of interest to anti-Semitism at Searchlight Mag. What? Why would this guy grass us to the campaign against anti-Semitism and Searchlight magazine for calling out Gary Thunberg? So let's just dig into like where the nexus of support comes from Gary. And I came across this. You may have seen Julian Rubinstein, who is a filmmaker. Austerity doesn't work. The national budget is not a household budget. The lie was disproved a decade ago. Being retweeted by Zach Polanski, who is the deputy leader of the Green Party. Stop the ridiculous analogies about household credit cards. Invest in public services, tackle inequality. This is Zach Polanski.
The party has left me. And look, we don't have time to mess around. There's a genocide in Gaza. There were literally racist riots on our streets last summer and reform on the rise. And what are this government doing? They're cutting winter fuel payments for our grandparents. Well,
so you've got Zach Polanski, Julian Rubinstein.
The evidence is really clear. There's new data out that shows that by the next general election, all households, that includes you and me, will be poorer than we are now. But what shows up really clearly is those poorest households already will be hit twice as hard.
I'm starting to see a pattern develop. I'm starting to notice a pattern. So basically, Gary's also involved with this organization called Patriotic UK Millionaires. Patriotic Millionaires is to leverage the voice of wealth to build a more just, stable, inclusive economy. This is millionaires who feel that they are not paying enough in taxation. Progressive wealth tax, blah, 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 blah. Patriotic Millionaires. So the question you might ask is, why would a certain group of people who are supposed to be millionaires demand greater taxation for themselves when in fact they could just offer to pay more tax? Do you honestly believe that these millionaires actually want to be taxed more in order to try and help you? Because I just simply don't believe that. Anyway, Patriotic Millionaires is who's really pushed Gary Stevenson over the last few years. But the Patriotic Millionaires was actually founded in the USA. And this stuff that Gary Stevenson is spouting is nothing new. It's bullshit that has been around. Let's be realistic. It's been around for 150 years, but in this most recent incarnation, it's just been repackaged. The Patriotic Millionaires is a group of Americans who earn more than $1 million per year and advocate for left-wing economic policies. They were organized by longtime Democrat and left-wing strategist Erica Payne, with help from trial lawyer and major Democratic donor Guy Saperstein. Guy Saperstein is a career left-of-center activist and political donor, contributor to the Huffington Post. They recruited 42 signees of a letter to then President Barack Obama to allow the Bush-era tax cuts to expire in 2010. An estimated 200 members, including Oscar Mayer heir Chuck Collins, Planned Parenthood activist Naomi Aberle, Men's Warehouse founder George Zimmer, Abigail Disney, signers of that Declaration in America included David Desjardins, Ben and Jerry's co-founder Ben Cohen, and hedge fund financier Michael Steinhardt. I just don't know. I just don't know. Is there a pattern emerging there? Some of the other names involved with Patriotic Millionaires, some notable members include Lawrence Lessig, American Leaguer School and political activist. Some other people involved, Jeffrey Guru, New York real estate developer. Jeffrey Guru is a New York real estate developer. Guru was born to Jewish American real estate developer Aaron Guru and Harriet File. And these guys are demanding that they get taxed more. Chuck Collins. Says he's a Gandhian or a Christian. His great-grandfather was Oscar Mayer. German-American. Okay. Okay. Roberta Kaplan is involved with Patriotic Millionaires. Roberta is known as Robbie Kaplan. She argued for LGBT rights activists. Her was a partner at the law firm Paul, Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton, and Garrison. Native of Cleveland, Ohio, Roberta Kaplan grew up in a Jewish household. Okay. Okay, she's on the board of Patriotic Millionaires. Well, George Zimmer, American businessman, founder of Men's Warehouse, a clothing retailer with more than 1,200 stores. Zimmer was born to a Jewish family in New York City. Norman Lear, American screenwriter and producer, produced over 100 shows. Norman Milton Lear was born on July 27, 1922 to Jeanette and Hyman Lear. Both parents were of Russian Jewish descent. Lear grew up in a Jewish household in Connecticut and had a bar mitzvah ceremony. Whitney Tilson, hedge fund manager, Democrat political activist. Tilson was critical of Harvard's response to anti-Semitism. Right. So what? Let me just try and see what's going on here. Gary Stevenson, who's now the darling of the British left and parts of the British right as well, freedom, because Gary cares about the everyday man on the street. But Gary is totally astroturfed. Gary involved with the George Soros Foundation. Gary totally pushed by patriotic millionaires. And everyone of note who is involved with patriotic millionaires also happens to be Jewish. Okay. Maybe it's just confirmation bias. Meanwhile, patriotic millionaires, Black Lives Matter. Sometimes there are moments where conducting business as usual is not only grossly inappropriate, but impossible. The murder of George Floyd, like the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. Black Lives Matter. Black livelihoods matter. Black futures matter. The millionaires. Meet the millionaires. Featured members. Maurice Perel, chairman of the Patriotic Millionaires and former managing director at Blackrock. Well. Doesn't it just get a bit more fucking interesting every single click that you make? Maurice Perel, the chair of the Patriotic Millionaires and former MD at Blackrock. Larry Fink was watching Question Time last night, and boy, oh boy, was he rubbing those hands. He was rubbing those hands. Maurice Perel. Involved with bailouts at Greece. I mean, what a fucking... These people take the utter cunt out of you. Don't they? Don't they? With their lies. And I'm not. I'm against it now. I used to be. You know, they control the left, they control the right, they control all aspects of the dialectic. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Jeez, oh, just look at this. All members: David Altschul, Mark Baum, Steve Berger, Andy Berndt, Nancy Bernstein, Richard Boberg, Richard Bonin, Dana Bronfman, James Colin. I mean, it's actually quite funny. I mean, obviously there's like other names there as well. Feldman, Essler, Goldman, Goldman, Goldschmidt, Robert Goldschmidt. Marissa Hirsch, Michael Hirschhorn, Anne Hess, Rochelle Kaplan, Jean Kaplan, Howie Klein, Art Lipson, Todd Oppenheimer. Like, look, statistically, you're looking at like 20 to 30% of this whole organization. Susan Pritzker, the Pritzker family, Great Neck Rickman, Michael Rothman, Frederick Reifkuhl, Eric Schoenberg, Steven Silberstein, Spencer Sherman, Jamie Shahoy, Steven Siegel, Barry Siegel, Daniel Solomon, Faye Strauss, Daniel Simon, Sander Strauss, Arthur Strauss, Richie Tabanachnik, Andrew Tobias, Billy Volkman, Bob Wegel, Sage Weil, Peter Weinberger, Rachel Weissman, Carol Winograd, Terry Winograd. I mean, it is the meme. It is the meme. It is the Scooby-Doo meme. Like, and do you know this is the other crazy thing is as well, is that like these people, they also run like the pro-Palestinian it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. That when you look at what that is, as I said, this is basically left-wing Jewish interests pushing for Bolshevism and communism. Thing is, I didn't actually know all this before I came on tonight, but you know what? I just knew what it was going to be. Because it literally is every single time. And nobody will do this. Again, everyone will just think, oh, that guy Gary Stevenson seems great and he's really speaking my language, and now he's just popped up on TV and now Gary is now Gary's speaking my language. I mean, do people not realize that Gary Stevenson is just downwind from the governing board? Like, it's unbelievable. and nobody, it's like, does nobody else notice this? I mean, clearly people do. But it's just like, wow.